I'm Allison Johnjack, the Cranberry Outreach Specialist with the University of Wisconsin-Madison Division of Extension. These videos are the on-demand recordings of UW Extension and the Wisconsin State Cranberry Growers Association's virtual brown bag lunch series. These monthly sessions offer growers and researchers a way to share timely and relevant information. We hope you'll enjoy and continue to engage with us. So welcome everyone to our last brown bag session of the 2021 cranberry year, and hope that everyone had a wonderful Thanksgiving, a productive hunting season, and is looking forward to a nice Christmas. And thank everybody for coming together for the opportunity to learn a little bit about what else is going on throughout the nation and throughout Canada as well in the cranberry world, keeping you posted on up and coming research and a few tactical things you can use on your farms. As far as housekeeping, always remember you can unmute and ask questions. You can also ask questions in the chat. If you want to ask a question anonymously, in the little drop down where it says to, ask the question just to me, and I will ask it anonymously on your behalf. We also have the ability to have closed captions, and I believe those are supposed to be default, but if you don't see them in your ... more, click on live transcript and those will appear for you. Hopefully they're appearing automatically, but in case they don't give up. So after all of that, I'm Allison Johnjack with University of Wisconsin-Madison Division of Extension, and Extension is bringing these brown bag sessions to you together with the Wisconsin Cranberry Growers Association. So I'm going to give Tom a minute to say good morning and give everyone an update.
I'll say good afternoon and welcome as we continue our series of programs, and kudos to Allison for putting these together. She does a great job with that. So thanks for doing that for us over the course of the past year. We've got, and I want to welcome our speakers for today. This is one of the sessions that we try to expand beyond the borders of Wisconsin to learn what's going on in the other growing regions and learn from other people who are doing interesting and important research. So I want to welcome them and thank them for joining us today. Allison did mention that Cranberry School registration is open. So if you want to go online and sign up for that, we'd encourage you to do that. We're looking forward to a great program down at Wisconsin Dells for 2 days in January. And we hope you all can join us for 2 days, not only of education programming and learning about research and all the other things that go on at the Cranberry School, but also the opportunity to get together with growers and network. Since we haven't been able to do that as much as we would like to, we're looking forward to that, seeing everybody there as well. So with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Allison. Thanks a lot for your work. And also, I'd be remiss if I didn't recognize Alex Skowinski for helping put these together too as well.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Alex. And a special thank you to Miranda Ellsby of Ocean Spray in Canada over in BC, Leela Upala, who is joining us even though it might be the middle of the night for her right now, as she's with family for holidays. She was able to bring it in and say good morning and good night to us with her disease research. And then Simone Bonin, who is in Quebec and also was able to join us on rather short notice. So Miranda is going to give us some updates on Tipworm and using Movento successfully. And I know some people have had mixed results, so Miranda is going to be able to share with us the way to make it work. Leela Upala is going to give us some recaps of her plant pathology research, and Simone will be able to give us some updates about his irrigation work. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that Miranda can share hers. And I'm also going to list a poll here so that Miranda will be able to get a sense of who's dealing with tipworm and with what sorts of severity. So hopefully, are you guys seeing this poll now? Do you have tipworm on your farm? And Miranda, you can share your screen as they're answering the question.
Perfect. Thanks, Allison.
We're gonna zip through these. So I'm going to end this one and show you the answers that we're looking at. About 70%, so 17 of our 25 growers who have logged in already do have tipworm. About 25% or 6 of those don't, and About 8% are not sure. So I'm going to launch the next poll real quickly. And if you do have tipworm, if you don't have tipworm, don't answer this question. So for those that do have tipworm, is it severe, moderate, minor, or are you not too sure of the severity? Is the poll live? I know we had a good 20 folks that were reporting having tipworm pressure, but I'm not getting a lot of answers in terms of severity. Maybe we'll end this one and go to the next then. The results there.
I don't see the ability to vote on my end, Allison, so I'm not sure if other people are able to vote on theirs.
Okay, all right, I'm going to launch this with, have you treated with Movento before? Are you able to answer? I'm getting answers now.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, a couple people told me they got an error after submitting question 2. I think
Okay.
given the time constraints of the day, we'll probably just roll through it and say, it looks like we have 75% of people with tipworm. And then as we're looking at, have you treated with Movento before? Of people with tipworm, about 23% have treated with Movento and about 77% have not. So hopefully you can see those results.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, that's really interesting. Good to know. So it looks like most have not used Movento yet.
Okay.
So that's really good context. Okay, great.
Sorry, this is Christelle, but I think we should rerun the poll of how do you have tipworm? Because I don't think that's representative of what we usually get when we do this kind of poll at Cranberry School.
Can I let Miranda start talking and I'll have the poll running in the background? I don't want to hold everybody's presentation up, but I'll rerun that.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, we'll get going. Thanks so much, Allison. Like was introduced, my name is Miranda Ellsby and I'm the agricultural scientist for Ocean Spray out in the BC region. So I'll be talking to you about tipworm and Movento, just because this is a pretty well-established pest out in BC. We've probably had it for a good 15 or 20 years even, and we consider it a pretty severe pest in BC. And we've had really good results with Movento. So I'd like to share that with Wisconsin and hopefully share some of those lessons with you. I'm going to touch on some basics of pest biology and then get into the history of tipworm in BC. So looking at how our populations sort of fluctuate throughout the season, the overwintering tipworm behavior here, and then what we have for natural enemies helping us keep those populations in check through the season. And then at the end, I'll sort of leave you with how to best use Movento and how our BC growers have used Movento to achieve good results out here. Okay, so getting into some of the tipworm biology here, for anyone who hasn't seen this pest up close, the adult stage of this pest is actually a midge. So that's what you see on the right-hand side. It's a very tiny insect. It's about 1/10 the size of a mosquito. So very difficult to see out in the field, very difficult to detect. This is a female on the right-hand side. You can see her abdomen is very swollen and a little bit on the orange side. That's because the eggs that are inside of her are a little bit orange. And it's actually the larval stage of this insect that causes damage to the plant. And they do that by feeding on those tender sort of meristematic shoot tips. And what happens when they feed on the shoot tips, it actually prevents floral bud set. And we tend to see vegetative bud set instead of those floral buds. And what happens then is it sort of contributes to these like fluffy branched vegetative canopies. And we saw, especially out here in BC, where we have really rich peaty soils that tend to be on the vegetative side anyways, we just got these very, very lush canopies with low yields. And last thing, we have sort of multiple overlapping, messy generations. So a little bit hard to target the peaks with this insect. So a few photos of what the immature stages look like here. This is an early larval stage feeding on the shoot tips. So when they're quite small like this, it's very difficult to see them in the field and even to see the damage in the field at this point. The cupping isn't really severe when they're this small, so you probably wouldn't even notice them at this point, which means it's really important to be taking shoots and actually looking at them under the microscope to get a gauge of how badly infested your fields are. They might be out there and you wouldn't even know at this point in infestation. So a little bit further along, this is a later larval stage, so the cupping is getting more severe. You can see some of that dying tissue in the shoot. So at this point, you probably could see that cupping in the field with the naked eye. Another shot of that pretty severe cupping. It tends to be a lighter color out in the field, so it stands out a little bit more. And when you open up a cup shoot like this, you should be able to see the orange larvae feeding inside, and it's pretty typical to find 2 or 3 larvae feeding inside. So at the later stages, they turn this orange color. And then they'll form a silken cocoon in that cupped leaf, and then they pupate. So this is the pupal stage of the insect. And then they'll emerge again as the adult. So like I said earlier, about 1/10 the size of a mosquito, so really small. These are cranberry shoots here, so you can kind of see the scale. Very difficult to see in the field. And that's sort of why I think this insect went unnoticed for so long. Some more photos of the damage and sort of that branching that I was talking about. So this was some early season damage. So this is the cupped shoot I was talking about on the left-hand photo here. And then the plant went on to compensate for that damage and recover with these 2 branch shoots, which is good. But then you can actually see in the very top right-hand corner that one of these compensation shoots was then reinfested by tipworm. So you can imagine year after year, these shoots being damaged by tipworm again and again and again, all through the season. And the way the plant has to compensate for that, that's a big energy draw on the plant. So it tends to set vegetative buds because of that, because that depletion of resources in the plant. So that's how we started seeing these very branched, vegetative, fluffy canopies with a higher proportion of vegetative versus floral or fruit-bearing shoots. So hopefully that's kind of a good visual of what I meant by these really branched canopies and the effects of long-term tipworm infestations that built up after years. So here I'm trying to show sort of a snapshot of what one farm can experience with their tipworm infestations and how those populations look over the course of a season. I know with graphs, there's kind of a lot to follow, so I'll try and break this down a little bit for you. The bar graphs here, so they represent the larval stages found within shoots. So you can kind of see this peak happening mid-season, which is about the bloom window for us in BC. And if you think about it, that makes a lot of sense because it's nice long days, the weather is warm, food quality is really good for the insect. There's lots of energy being put into that plant, lots of nutrition and fertilizer going out. So everything is going really well for the insect at this point. So there's a bit of a boom in the population in that mid-season timeframe. And the other thing I want you to take note of is the red arrows on the graph. And what they represent is actually overwintered or hibernated tipworm that are emerging from the soil. So what we found is that those tipworm are able to emerge from their hibernation sites in the soil all through the season, which is really interesting. We kind of expected them to emerge in this flush in the spring. but they didn't do that. They came out all season long, which is a really interesting sort of survival mechanism, especially the really late emergence timing. So even, you know, late July, mid-August. And then the last thing I want you to take note of is that dashed black arrow on the graph, which was actually this grower's Movento application. So the timing for Movento is immediately post bloom. So that's when this grower put out that application. So sort of catching that late mid tipworm peak. And you'll also notice that there was emergence of tipworm from the soil even after that Movento application went out, which is something that's really important to note, because you really have to approach managing tipworm as a multi-year strategy. And you can't expect miraculous results with one Movento application. You'll have to do probably 2 in your first year of managing this insect if you have a moderate to severe infestation, and then follow that up in the following years. So you have to sort of deplete that bank of insects that's built up in the soil, as well as your current year's infestation, just because it has that ability to continuously emerge from the soil all through the season, even after your insecticides have gone out. So I hope that makes sense. And just sort of showing again this insect's ability to emerge all season long. Back in 2015 in Sheila Fitzpatrick's lab, we looked at 6 different farms and tracked that overwintering emergence of tipworm. And so these dots show that there was emergence in each week that we did trapping. So like I mentioned, they're emerging just pretty much each week throughout the year on any given farm, all the way until mid-August. So it was a really interesting behavior to document, and really shows the importance of that multi-year management approach. So as far as natural enemies go, we've documented 4 parasitic wasps in BC. So that's what is up on the screen here. Something interesting in BC and Canada, we actually lost our diazinon registration in Cranberry, I think back in 2015 now, which is something that was really feared in industry. But what ended up happening is we had this rebound in natural enemies with that loss of the broad spectrum insecticide. So we have these 4 wasps out there actively parasitizing tipworm. So we'll see these really emerging late in the season. So after that tipworm population is built up, these wasps will begin emerging, and they're likely contributing to keeping populations in check a little bit in combination with the Movento. And we'll see these in the field, even though Movento is being actively used. So if Movento is affecting them, it's probably indirectly and not directly, which is good. So just kind of summarizing everything I've said so far about how we've successfully brought our populations from pretty severe in BC down to moderate and in control. We've used Movento now pretty regularly. It's been really effective for us. It's a very targeted systemic product. That post-bloom spray timing has been really important for reducing the number of insects that would otherwise be dropping down to the soil to overwinter and reinfest for next year. The loss of diazinon that I mentioned, even though it seemed really scary at first, it's actually caused this rebound in natural enemies. So we have 4 parasitic wasps out there helping us. The growers approach this as a multi-year control program. So not thinking that we'll have amazing results in year 1 with 1 spray of Movento. They go at it with a 3, 4, 5-year approach, thinking about things like sanding and how fertilizer contributes to tipworm populations. And then also when we started out, we used a 30% spray threshold. And we always called this a working threshold. And now that we've moved into this time of sort of keeping low populations low, we're comfortable making the call at a 20% infestation rate. Just knowing that we're trying to maintain those low populations. So that's something to consider. If a grower has 30% or above infestation, they're probably looking at 1 or 2 applications of Movento in a season. But at the 20% infestation rate, it's probably more like 1 application of Movento. So just this last slide, I wanted to leave you with a sort of an example of a tipworm management plan in BC. So like I said, a multi-year management approach. So for the first year, if you have a moderate to severe application, or sorry, a moderate to severe infestation, so that 30% or above infestation rate, you're looking at 2 applications of Movento. So immediately after bloom, so get your pollinators out of the field, try to catch that mid to late population peak for tipworm. Get your product out there, and then about 10 to 14 days after, so after that systemic effect has worn off of your first application, put out your second. And then in the next year, you're likely going to do another application, but again, keeping an eye on your populations. And then in the third year, you might be able to take that third year off. Check on your populations. If you're at maybe 15%, you can take it off. And then in the fourth year, you'll probably follow up with an application, and then so on and so on, and just keeping an eye on your populations. And then for any ocean spray growers in the audience, keeping in mind that we have a 40-day PHI on this product. Okay, so that was everything I had. And I'll just leave you with a few resources here that I linked. We have a BC IPM guide, and then also Sheila Fitzpatrick developed some tipworm BMPs for BC. So I have those documents linked here in the final slide.
Awesome. Thank you, Miranda. We're a smidge over the original time, and probably because we spent a little extra time on those polls. So we've got a question in the chat, a couple of questions. How do you calculate percent infestation? I guess maybe we're going to want to circle back to these at the end of the session, or else you can type answers in as we go. But we've got questions about nematodes and biologicals, percent infestation calculations, and looking at synthetic pyrethroids. So I'll let you answer those in the chat. I'll share the results since Christelle asked for that kind of duplicate poll. And here we're showing about 88% of the growers who responded do have tipworm. And then asked the intervention threshold in BC. They had used 30 in the past, but they've moved down to 20%. I can say that one real quickly.
Okay.
So thank you, Miranda, for that awesome presentation. I know we'll have a lot of people able to start taking action on their tipworm going forward here. So for people who have questions for Simon, if you want to add those to the chat, I'll give a minute or two to let those come in, and then I'll read through the questions and answers we've had come through so far. If you have questions for Leela or for Miranda, do ask those as well, and just put the name in front so that we know who should answer which one. I'm getting a lot of thank yous. And of course, if people do need to drop off because we're a little past 1, just let me know. I'll be able to send you the video after the fact. As I wait for other questions to come in, I'm going to read through ones that we've got and questions and answers we got from Miranda. And so they asked, have you looked at nematodes or biologicals to control tipworm in the soil? And Miranda was not 100% sure, but she will look into that for you. It's possible that the work was done by Quantlin in BC, so she's going to look. Another question asked about, have you looked at using synthetic pyrethroids like danitol pre-bloom or post-bloom for tipworm control? And the answer is that danitol is not registered in Canada, so that's not been done up there. But probably, perhaps Christelle or another U.S. entomologist could give a comment on that. I don't know, Christelle, if you're still in the audience here. The next question on the.
I'm sorry, Allison. Sam did chime in from Washington. She did some trials that were promising out there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. How do you calculate infestation percent for tipworm? I'll let you I'll
Okay,
let you
yeah.
speak it since you're here.
Yeah, so we take 50 shoots from the field and then we look at those under the microscope and then we tally the infested shoots and do the calculation that way.
Awesome. And we had talked a little bit about what threshold, at what threshold do you do treatments? I'll let you say that as well.
Yeah, so when we first started out managing tipworm, we always worked with a 30% working threshold, knowing that could be adjusted over time. And now that we're moving to sort of like a maintenance stage with the pest and keeping low populations low, we're going down to a 20% action threshold.
Awesome. I think that those are all the questions that we'd had for Miranda on the tipworm topic. So thanks everybody for that. And thanks Miranda for giving us your expertise, because I know in a fair part of our state, we don't necessarily have a long enough growing season to expect recovery. So we want to make sure that
Yes,
we're
exactly.
keeping that pest controlled as much as we can. Any other questions that come through the chat? I know I aim to have this be the most info-dense hour of your month for growers. I know this time it's been an hour and 20 minutes, and I appreciate everyone rolling with that because I think it's been really good information. But a huge thank you to Miranda and to Lila and to Simon. Any final questions, or otherwise I just want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and happy holidays and a wonderful winter season.
Thank
Thank
you.
you all so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Allison.
Thank you, Tom.